one of the situations that is ongoing throughout the offseason for the Raptors comes from the trade they made with the Sacramento Kings that sent Jalen McDaniels to the Kings. The Raptors got the 45th overall pick, a future second-round pick, Davion Mitchell. But they also got Sasha Vezenkov, who could present a pretty interesting player for the Raptors. He's currently under contract with the Raptors, but reports suggest he's about to sign to go back and play in Europe, specifically play in Greece. But we need to explain why that situation is actually a lot more complicated than it may seem. The Amateur Hour Production Network is dedicated to Toronto Raptors content. We do videos and we also do live streams, which go long on the main channel. So to make it easier for you guys to watch and to digest, we have the Amateur Hour Clips channel. We're going to take the best highlights and segments from those live streams on Amateur Hour Sports and put them right here for you to enjoy. So if you like what you see along the way, make sure you do hit that like button and also subscribe to the channel as well. With so much consistent content coming out as well as post-game shows during the season, you're not going to want to miss out. So Davion Mitchell is obviously the real piece they wanted in the Sacramento Kings trade. The Raptors got Jalen McDaniels, which was wonderful. They got the 45th overall pick, which they drafted Jamal Shed with. They got a Portland Trailblazers second-round pick for next season, which is great. Davion Mitchell should be the backup point guard next season. That's great. But a little bit of a bonus was Sasha Vezenkov. But really, the Kings are just trying to get off money to stay under the tax, not be a luxury tax team. Sasha Vezenkov came over to the Kings last season, signed a 3-year deal, which included a team option in the third year. And he was coming off of a EuroLeague MVP. So it kind of felt like he'd have some effect on the Kings. Now, it's difficult to adjust going from playing in Europe to playing in the NBA. The game was just played so differently. Vezenkov had issues adjusting to that. Perhaps the Kings wasn't the best destination for him to go to. Didn't really work out. Also suffered with an injury near the end of the season. He wanted to go somewhere else. Apparently, he kind of wanted to go play in Europe again. But the Raptors got him, and it was like, hey, he can shoot. Maybe Darko can use him, and we have somebody who could just add to the floor spacing of this team. Out of nowhere, when we were kind of excited about the prospect of Sasha Vezenkov playing for the Raptors, the report came out that he's set to return to Olympiacos at the end of the NBA season, or after this season. Now, the report was suggesting that Sasha Vezenkov would sign immediately to return to Olympiacos this summer. Those were the reports that were coming out as we got closer to free agency, right after the Raptors had acquired him in a trade. So I was like, oh, well, I thought we'd have him, but I guess it makes sense. He didn't adjust very well to the NBA. It appears as though he is just going to be going back to Europe now. It is what it is. But then a report came from Michael Grange, the Sportsnet reporter for the Raptors, who did some digging and said the people in the position to know report that after the reports that Sasha is leaving the NBA to play in Greece, the reports are that he has 1 year left on his NBA deal, and the Raptors control his rights and have no intention of waiving him and expect to have him at training camp. So this came out. Then more reports came out suggesting that, yes, he was going to still return to Greece. He was still going to return to Europe. But now it's an ongoing situation. We actually had Masai Ujiri in a press conference finally where he discussed it a little bit, and they said they're still working on everything about it. He said he had conversations with Sasha, his representations. I think that should develop the next few days, or we'll see whether it's a few months. So why this situation is complicated for the Raptors and for Vezenkov, it's over the contract. Yes, he has a 1 year contract, but even though Vezenkov is under contract with the Raptors, it doesn't mean that he doesn't have any leverage. He still has a little bit of leverage here. If he wants to force a move to go play in Europe, he can absolutely make it happen. So here's the contract situation. Played with the Kings last season, $6.3 million. On the hook now, the Raptors, $6.6 million this season. That's a team option where we can make a decision. But $6.6 million guaranteed to him this season. He can't just leave and then all of a sudden this $6.6 million evaporates. Like I said, Vezenkov still has some leverage in this situation because if he wants to go back and play in Greece and the Raptors say, no, you're under contract, what Vezenkov can do is retire. He can retire, come back to basketball later on, of course, but then the Raptors would be on the hook for all $6.6 million against the cap. it would count towards the cap completely. They wouldn't have to pay him, but it would count towards the cap. That's not an ideal situation for the Raptors. What would likely have to happen is the Raptors would have to buy him out so he could go play in Europe, but they wouldn't buy him out at the full amount. The reported salary for Vezenkov playing with Olympiacos is about $3.5 million. So what I think the most likely situation would end up being is the Raptors come to an agreement with Vezenkov to buy him out for about $3 million. They save $3.5 million towards the cap by doing so. And it's kind of a win-win, where the Raptors pay half of the contract. He gets to go play in Europe as he wanted. The Raptors save some money towards the cap. But the best situation for the Raptors at this point, like, was free agency drying up, not really having the resources anyways to go pick up a player. The best situation would probably be just to keep him and have him play. So, yeah, like Masai Ujiri said, it's an ongoing situation, right? It's unfortunate how it's all kind of spun out here for the player, because I was kind of looking forward to seeing, look, can the Raptors unlock something here? As much as it wasn't a very successful first season playing in the NBA, he's clearly a player who has talent. He won EuroLeague MVP. He had 17 points per game last season with Olympiacos in the EuroLeague, en route to winning that MVP, scoring 55% of his shots, 40% shooting from three. The game is different, but he's definitely a player that can space the floor and has the smarts. And I'm thinking, look, maybe if he's playing with a coach who understands that game a bit better, and Darko has coached in Europe previously, maybe that's a better way to unlock some sort of potential in the player to have more success in the league. You know, I'm not looking for the world with Vezenkov here in the NBA. Can he be a role player? Can he come off the bench and get 15 minutes a game and knock down some shots and space the floor? Certainly, the indication from last season would be that's the case. He played with the Kings last season, 42 games, 12 minutes per game, only 5 points per game, but 37% shooting from three. You know, if we stack on to a per 36 number, 16 points per game on 37.5% shooting from three. You know, the efficiency isn't the greatest from the field, 44%, but again, it just wasn't really a great fit overall for Vezenkov playing with the Kings. An effective field percentage still at 56. It's a player who absolutely has the talent to play in this league, and at a cheap contract, and for a team that could use all the shooting they could get, why not use him? So hopefully this situation can be resolved. Either way, look, best case, we have a good player involved with our team for this season that we can use. End of the season, he can go back to Europe. He's a UFA. He can do as he pleases. What also isn't the worst possible situation, which if he is insistent on going, what isn't the worst possible situation, you kind of deal with him. You buy him out for half of what his salary is for this year. Let him go back to Europe. Free up a little bit more cap space for yourself. Look, you probably won't get a player necessarily that of his caliber, but you open a bit of cap space and the situation is resolved to the best of your ability. But when the trade happened, as much as David Mitchell was the main piece of that trade, I did have some excitement about the Raptors unlocking something within Vezenkov, a former EuroLeague MVP. Historically, EuroLeague MVPs haven't fared well in the NBA, but it just felt like a player that the Raptors could get something out of. So the whole situation is a little bit disappointing, but the whole situation is confusing as well, because you have the Raptors saying, yeah, he's not going anywhere, and you have Vezenkov's camp saying, no, he's actually already going to sign for Olympiacos. We'll see how it all unfolds. It's all complicated, but it's weird how a player can just leave out on his contract and still have leverage to do so. Kind of strange, but it's kind of like the Bronny James situation where, you know, he says, don't draft me unless it's the Lakers, or else I'll go play in Australia for a year.